Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we've got another pre-recorded video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. In this video, we're doing one that we do usually during our Christmas break, and that is teams who have exceeded expectations so far, in my opinion, at this point in time, and teams who are not living up to expectations. We've got 4 of each, so we'll touch on all of these teams, and if they're exceeding expectations or below expectations, coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Now before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe below. Thank you for all your support. I would never be able to do it without all of you guys. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, but if we can hit 600 by the new year, I'd be very happy with that. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to stay tuned for videos coming out in the very near future. But in today's video, we've got a very interesting pre-recorded video here talking about teams who have exceeded expectations and teams who have not lived up to expectations. So I've got 4 of each at this point in time. There could have been other teams. This is a very weird season, so there are other teams who could have put who are exceeding expectations, who are not living up to expectations. But I think these 4, both on the plus side and the minus side, really stand out, in my opinion at least, as teams who have exceeded so far or not living up to expectations so far this year. So we'll start with the 4 teams I have who are exceeding expectations. The first team is the Detroit Red Wings. This team is on a really good heater at this current point in time. The Red Wings, as we're recording this video on December 19th, are 19-13-3. So the Red Wings are looking phenomenal right now in the NHL. I mean, I was expecting them to be hovering around a playoff spot. I picked Buffalo to get that second wildcard spot, but I picked Detroit to be like 2-3 points behind them. I expected Detroit to be another 85 to 90 point team who just misses on a playoff spot, but they're currently leading the Atlantic Division. 41 points in 35 games and a 19-13-3 record. Like, they're doing a whole bunch better than I originally thought. So I'm going to say they're exceeding expectations right now. Now, is it sustainable? I think so. They have a better goaltender this year than in years past than John Gibson. Cam Talbot's doing all right as the backup. Defensively, they look a little bit stronger now with some of the younger guys advancing, with guys like Axel Sandin-Pellikka, Albert Johansson, and forward group-wise, they have a really solid top 6. Sure, could their bottom 6 be a little bit better? I would agree, but this team all in all is a pretty dang good team. And while I'm not sure if they'll win the Atlantic by the end of the season, I think they've shown me enough that they are probably going to be a playoff team. So very solid stuff there, but the Red Wings are one team that is exceeding expectations so far. Another team that's exceeding expectations in the Eastern Conference, the New York Islanders. As of recording this video, they are tied for 3rd in the Metro Division with 41 points, identical to Detroit, a 19-13-3 record. So once again, the Carolina Hurricanes are head and shoulders above everyone else, so not too surprised there. But the Islanders are actually in contention for a playoff spot. I was not expecting this at the preseason stuff. I thought they would be in contention for one of the worst records in the league, potentially the worst record in the Eastern Conference, but they've shown me some really good stuff. Like, Matthew Schaefer has been a revelation on the blue line. Sorokin is back to being his dominant self. Defensively, team's looking pretty good. Offensively, top to bottom, they're getting goal scoring from everywhere. Barzal, Horvat, Shabanov, Ritchie, like, they're going from all over the place. So the Islanders have a really solid start to the season. Now, do I think this is sustainable? Probably not. I think they'll probably be one of those teams who do fall out of playoff spots. I think they're having a really good start, which is great stuff, and the future is looking brighter than ever it has been for the New York Islanders. But I just think this team is not sustainable. Maybe if they add a couple of pieces, maybe they can make the playoffs. I don't think there'll be any more than like maybe a 1st or 2nd round exit. So very interesting note there. Like, I like that the Islanders have exceeded expectations, but I don't see them as a playoff team long term. So very interesting note there. The 3rd team we're going to talk about here is a team who I expected to make the playoffs, but they have been exceeding those expectations, and that's the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks, they did come off of a very bad loss last night against the Dallas Stars, so that wasn't overly good, but this team is currently tied, point-wise at least, for top spot in the Pacific Division with the Vegas Golden Knights, and they were, for the longest period of time, actually leading the Pacific Division. So the Ducks have had a better start than I was ever expecting. They have 3 more wins than the closest team in the Pacific Division, which is absolute insanity. The overtime and shootout losses are helping other teams like Vegas, Edmonton, and LA stay afloat. The Ducks have won more games than anyone else in the Pacific, so this team's looking good. Now, do I think it's sustainable? I do. Dostal, Mrazek, they're a really good 1-2 tandem, and Dostal is starting to find his role as a starter in the NHL level. Defensive-wise, don't have a whole bunch of veterans, but they're really gelling well together. And up front, the emergence of Carlson and Gauthier have been great for the Ducks. Kryer's looking good. Granlund's looking good. They have a lot of really solid complementary pieces. I think this is a team who can compete for a playoff spot. I'm not sure, just like the Red Wings, if they're going to win the Pacific Division, but I think at this point in time, they've shown me enough they are going to be a playoff playoff team this year. And that was something I was expecting at the start of the season. At this point, they might even be a top 3 team in the Pacific. So very interesting note there, but the Ducks have exceeded my expectations so far this year, and I think they're a playoff team at this point in time. And the 4th team that has exceeded expectations so far is one who I wasn't expecting to make the playoffs. So I was hoping to get a little bit better, and they have exceeded my expectations by far, and that is the San Jose Sharks. They are currently with an above 500 record at 17, 15, and 3. They are at 37 points. I don't even think they hit the 60-point plateau last year. I have a couple of good months in January, February. They could hit it before March happens. This Sharks team has been fantastic. Now, has it been great? No, they're still only 2 games above 500. They're in a wild card spot. They're benefiting from the fact that there's a lot of bad teams in that Pacific Division and the Western Conference in general. But they're 2 games above 500. Defensively, they haven't looked as bad as they were last year. In net, Askarov has been brilliant. He looks like a future #1 starter. And Nedeljkovic, well, he's had some bad gaffes, doesn't look terrible. But up front, their bottom 6 scoring, their top 9 scoring hasn't been terrible. Will Smith looks like a really solid player. Toffoli is doing really good stuff for the Sharks. And Macklin Celebrini has been absolutely bonkers. He's 3rd in the NHL in scoring. He's the 3rd player this year to hit 50-plus points. He's doing things as teenagers. Guys like Crosby and Gretzky are doing as teenagers. Like Celebrini is a special talent, and the Sharks really have a good one here. Now, do I think it's sustainable? No. This team is relying so much on Celebrini, and Celebrini is bailing them out on a whole bunch of occasions, as is Askarov. I don't think it's sustainable for a full 82-game season. Would I like to see the Sharks in the playoffs? Yeah, they've been out for a couple of years now. They were one of those teams who never won a Stanley Cup. I would love to see them in the playoffs, but I just don't think this is really sustainable right now. So very interesting note there, but I do like the way the Sharks have been playing so far this year, but I just don't think it's sustainable. But they have, at this point, exceeded expectations. So very interesting note there. We're going to go over to teams who have so far not lived up to expectations. The first I want to touch on here is in the Central Division, and that is the St. Louis Blues. Now, I did not pick the St. Louis Blues to be a playoff team in the preseason. I expected them to be someone hovering around a playoff spot, could maybe get in. I thought they would take a little bit of a step back from last year, but man, I was not expecting them to take this much of a step back. They're currently 13, 15, and 8 for 34 points in 36 games. This team is not looking overly good. They're finding some ways to win. It's mostly been like in overtime or in a shootout. Like, they do have a couple of regulation wins, but they're also finding ways to get points in overtime and in shootout. So I don't have full confidence in St. Louis at this point in time. It seems that they're going to be one of the bigger sellers come the trade deadline. So do I think they can get back into what I thought they would be at the preseason? No, I don't think so. Like, this team does not look like the team that went on that run last year. And imagine if they didn't go on the run last year, probably wouldn't have made the playoffs last year either. So at this point in time, I think St. Louis is probably one of the worst teams in the NHL. I think they are way lower than I expected. And while I was expecting to do a whole bunch better, I think they will be one of the bottom dwellers come the trade deadline and come the end of the season. So they're definitely not living up to my expectations from the preseason, and I don't think that anything's going to change there. The other team I want to talk about here is the Winnipeg Jets in the Central Division. I was expecting them to be a playoff team, probably first wildcard team, maybe contending for like a top 3 spot in the Central. I didn't think they would win the President's Trophy again this year, but I thought they would easily still be a playoff team after what they did last year. But this year, terrible. Sure, they lost Hellebuyck for I think it was like 11 or 12 games, and they did terrible in those games, but they've had Hellebuyck back for about a week and a half now, and they're still not finding their groove. They're 15, 17, and 2 for 32 points, and they're right around the same points percentage that the St. Louis Blues are at. So I was not expecting the Jets to be this bad. Like, I was expecting them to be a playoff lock. Do I think they can get to what I was expecting them to do in the preseason? Yes, they do. Hellebuck's back. He's healthy. They still have a pretty decent defensive core. Forward-wise, they still have one of the best top lines in the NHL, and Scheifele, Velarde, and Connor. So yes, I do think that the Jets can pull out of this, and they will be able to still make the playoffs. But man, at this point in time at the Christmas break, they have not lived up to my expectations from the preseason. So very interesting note there. A couple of other teams who are not living up to expectations at this current point in time, in my opinion, are in the Atlantic Division. First, one of my favorite teams in the Ottawa Senators. They've not had an overly great start to the season. They had a great November, which was absolutely surprising because they usually are terrible in November. But the last week of November and the first 2 weeks of December, they were terrible. They were one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference. Now, once again, lots of teams in the Eastern Conference are above 500, so that's not too surprising, but they fell completely out of the Atlantic race. They started to pick up recently, winning a couple of games over the past week, but they're still only at 16, 13, and 4 record, 36 points, 4 points out of 4th in the Atlantic Division, and they're still one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference. So they've not lived up to expectations. But can I see them get back to preseason form at current point in time? Yes. Yes, I can. I know they've had a little bit of a slow start in December, but I think Allmark, if he gets on a hot streak, he's going to be a dangerous contender to watch out for. They have the defense, they have the pieces to be really solid defensively, and with Brady Tkachuk back, they really don't have a whole bunch of injuries on the forward group, so like they should have one of the better top nines in the entire NHL. So I know they haven't lived up to expectations yet, because in the preseason I did predict them to be a wild card team, but I do think they can get back up to there, and I still think they will wind up making the playoffs. So that's another team who has not lived up to expectations so far. And the fourth team that I want to talk about here today that has not lived up to expectations is the Toronto Maple Leafs. This team I was expecting to probably take a little bit of a step back from last year, because I wasn't expecting them to win the Atlantic again. They lost Marner in the offseason. I was expecting a little bit of hiccups, so I was expecting them to be probably second or third in the Atlantic. I think I picked them third, so I was expecting them to take a little bit of a step back, but my gosh, this team looks terrible. They are currently at a 15-13-5 record. They've had a couple of saves late in games that have been able to get them points, but still, like, this team is not looking good. Like, they are not right. Like, I mean, they, over the past couple of weeks, have been losing a whole bunch of games. They had a decent start to the season, but like, this team at one point in November was the worst team in the Eastern Conference. So like, I don't know what's wrong with Toronto. It seems that they're missing Marner a lot more, and it seems like Craig Berube has just lost the room at this point in time at the Christmas break. So it'll be very interesting to note there what happens with the Maple Leafs. Now, I think and I want to believe this team can come out of this slump, but seeing them play right now, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to come out of this playoff slump. Like, I know they're a really solid team. They have really solid players. I think they've made 9 straight playoff appearances. So, like, I want to lean towards them probably getting out of this slump. But with the way they're playing right now, I don't see it. Unless something drastic happens and they start rattling off some wins and it looks like they're a coherent unit again, I'm probably going to say that this slump continues as the season goes on. And if I would have to guess right now, they probably don't make the playoffs, which in the preseason I would have thought was a pipe dream. So very interesting note there, but the Toronto Maple Leafs have been sucking this year. They've not been living up to expectations, and in my personal opinion, I don't think that's going to change unless something really just clicks with the Maple Leafs. So very interesting note there. Love your guys' thoughts. Do you think that the Leafs, the Jets, the Sens, and the Blues have not been living up to expectations? Do you think that the Ducks, the Wings, the Islanders, and the Sharks have been exceeding expectations? Were there other teams that I should have put in here instead of these 8 teams? And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. If you think any of those 4 teams exceeding expectations can remain exceeding expectations throughout the entirety of the season, and do you think any of those teams who have not lived up to expectations don't live up to expectations throughout the rest of the season? Definitely your thoughts on that down in the comment section below. That's all I'm going to talk for today. You're going to like this video, and if you'd like to remember to subscribe down below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do it without all of you guys, so if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to stay tuned for videos coming out in the very near future. Also a blog to my news, rumors, analysis, so if that's when you check that out, I'm going to check down in the description below. Can I see you guys all for the next video? See you guys soon.